gathered here in the mystery of this hour, gathered here in one strong body, gathered here in the struggle and the power. Spirit, draw near. Gathered here in the mystery of this hour. We come from? Where do we come from? What are we? Where are we going? Where do we come from? What are we? Where are we going? Where do we come from? What are we?
Good morning. I am the Reverend Ellen Quaadgras, serving in ministry co-leadership here with Kirsten Hunter, our Director of Lifespan Ministry, and in collaborative ministry with all of you. I want to welcome you to worship this morning. Here, a place where we come together from our separate spaces, from our individual life stories, our particular worries and joys, and join in community to remember that there is something precious inside each one of us, that there are unrealized possibilities all around us, and that there is something important that can happen among us when we are open to it. Welcome to this time for those of you online, and welcome to this space for all of you here in the sanctuary with me. This space, which I do want to name, was built upon land that was once the territory of the Abenaki and Pennacook nations, who, like so many Native people in this country, did not cede this land and are a people for whom true justice and self-determination remain elusive. May we make room for this truth to live in fresh ways in our hearts, lead us to ask fresh questions, and imagine how to take fresh action on our collective UU values toward restorative justice. This summer, we are exploring the theme of fresh air, fresh perspectives, fresh approaches, different ways of thinking or doing, like a service centered around questions. Questioning is not only a central part of our faith, but an important part of any society. As author Yuval Noah Harari writes, a society of courageous people willing to admit ignorance and raise difficult questions is usually not just more prosperous, but also more peaceful than societies in which everyone must unquestioningly accept a single answer. People afraid of losing their truth tend to be more violent than people who are used to looking at the world through several different viewpoints. Questions you cannot answer, he concludes, are far better than answers you cannot question. So today, I invite us into the practice of asking questions and potentially questioning the answers. You can ask questions about things you've been wondering about, but in particular about faith or spirituality or this congregation or church in general. You will find, I'll get to that in a moment. And I will offer some answers, not because I have all the answers, I don't at all, but as UUs, we understand something about the power of questioning and curiosity and exploration and wondering. And this is an experiment in spontaneity for me. I like to challenge you all to lean into your edges, and I am typically someone who prefers to have everything written to the last word and punctuation. But perhaps the flow of questions and answers, in that flow, the Spirit will move differently among us. Who knows what will happen? Either way, today I invite you to bring your curiosity and your spirit of exploration. You will now find an insert in your order of service, or perhaps were handed it when you came in, on which you can write your question. During the Offertory, soon after the basket is passed, there will be special question boxes going around into which you can put your question. So, think about what you would like to ask, jot down your question sometime in the first half of the service, and then place it in one of those boxes during the Offertory. I invite you to take a look at your order of service, which lists all the wonderful people involved in making our service happen today, both those visible in front here with me and those behind the scenes who make worship possible week after week. Please note that after the children's story, Jen Del Deo-Barry will offer a religious education opportunity. Will you be? Yes. Yes. For the youngest among us, just follow her down the aisle after the Time for All Ages story. And every one of you is invited to stay for fellowship right outside these doors for coffee, treats, and conversation. And my challenge to you this week is to talk to someone you do not know well and ask them this crucial question. If you could have coffee with any historical figure, who would it be and why? Please note that assisted listening devices and large print hymnals are available in the back of the sanctuary. Please ask an usher if you need assistance. Please silence your cell phone if you have one, and it is now time for some announcements.
Good morning. 2 announcements today. One, while the Pocket Garden Tour has tickets for sale, there won't be a table today. Just so you know, there are not tickets for sale here, but there are tickets available. I believe you can find that in your order of service. And the Pocket Garden Tour does still need some people to volunteer as garden hosts, which gets you a free ticket, which is pretty cool. And to sign up for that, I hear that you can find that on the Pocket Garden Tour section of the South Church webpage. So please sign up for that if you're able. My other announcement is that we've had a great summer of RE connecting and having fun in all ages together, and very soon we'll be moving back into our program year of RE classes. And it takes about 4 dozen volunteers to make that program be smooth and fun and a good place for all of us. So I am still looking for some volunteers, and this should not be a situation of obligation, but anyone who feels like they would like the opportunity to connect with people of different ages and to learn about Unitarian Universalism or social justice or all kinds of other topics like that, I invite you to talk to me, because there are all different things that could look like for participating in RE. And that's all.
Gathered here in the mystery of this hour, gathered here in one strong body, gathered here in the struggle and the power. Spirit, draw near.
As we light our chalice here, we invite people watching at home to light a candle or chalice of their own. We light this chalice today with these words from the book Siddhartha by Hermann Hesse. When someone seeks, said Siddhartha, it easily happens that his eyes see only the thing that he seeks, and he is able to find nothing, to take in nothing, because he always thinks only about the thing he is seeking, because he has one goal, because he has become obsessed with his goal. Seeking means having a goal, but finding means being free, being open, having no goal. Please stand if you are able and join me in reciting the mission statement printed in your order of service. At South Church, we nurture spiritual growth through worship, learning, and community. We celebrate the worth and dignity of all people, inspire one another to act on our faith in the larger community. Good morning. My name is Chris Kiper, and I'm honored to be joining the Worship Associates team here at South Church. When you think of a really good band name, you should always write it down as soon as possible. That's why our family keeps a little list of band names that we think are good attached to our refrigerator door. Imagine if the greatest band names like Led Zeppelin, Pink Floyd, and the Grateful Dead were lost to time because no one thought to jot them down in that fleeting moment of inspiration. Our list includes, among others, such band names as Zipline to God, Snail Farm, and the Retired Pirates. I recently added a new one that popped into my head: Boolean forces. You may remember George Boole. He was a 19th century English mathematician who helped establish a system of algebra and logic that was named in his honor, Boolean algebra. The basic idea is that an equation or an expression can have one of two different values. It can be either true or it can be false. This simple concept led to the design of computer circuits, the language of ones and zeros. This all or nothing approach works quite well for transmitting digital information, but not so much for describing most of our human experience. We know that the answer to many questions in life isn't simply true or false, but something more like, it depends. Maybe. Sometimes. Or I would argue the most honest and humble response that one can give: I don't know. And so to me, Boolean forces is more than a decent band name. It's the way I describe a growing tendency in the world to present only absolute options: good or bad, right or wrong, right or left, red or blue, black or white, thumbs up or thumbs down. What in our lives can we consider to be absolute truth? For me, it's the love I hold for my family, friends, community, my fellow humans, and a sense of awe for the natural world, the tallness of trees, the farness of stars. Love and awe, that's what I'm certain of today. And it's different for each of us. We naturally crave the comfort of certainty. And so we seek by asking questions to learn what feels solid and what feels shaky. It may be that we find only more questions, perhaps better questions. We may find not so much an answer, but a deeper and realer experience within our ever-opening minds. We may find that to accept reality for what it is means becoming better friends with the unknown. Please remain seated while we go over some instructions for our hymn, number 1003, Where Do We Come From?
So you can open the teal book to 1003 and take a look if you'd like. Maybe you won't need to look at the book, but it is an option. We'll be doing part 1 and part 3. I'll be leading part 1 on this side, and Reverend Ellen will be leading part 3 on that side, and Chris will give us some drum beat as well. I'm going to sing our part a couple times, and then we'll all sing our part together, and then the other side will learn their part. Where do we come from? What are we? Where are we going? One more time, I'm gonna sing it. I'm gonna kind of give you, it goes up and down a little bit. Where did we come from? What are we? Where are we going? Sing that with me. Where did we come from? What are we? Where are we going? Where did we come from? What are we? Where are we going? Where did we come from? What are we? Where are we going? Where did we come from? What are we? Where are we going?
Nice. So we're going to do a different part that I'm going to teach you, and it's more of a rhythm part. So I'll do it first, and then I'll invite you to join me. Mystery, mystery, life is a How does it go? Mystery, mystery, life is a riddle and a mystery. It's part 3 in your book. Mystery, mystery, life is a riddle and a mystery. Mystery, mystery, life is a riddle and a mystery. We'll do it one more time. Mystery, mystery, life is a riddle and a mystery. Nice. Now they're going to start and sing their part through twice, and then I'm going to invite us in to join them. And then when you see me do this, that's when we all know we're going to end the song together. Okay, adventure is right before us.
Rise and sing
Please
out.
rise in body or in spirit.
Where did we come from? What are we? Where are we going? Where did we come from? What are we? Where are we going? Where did we come from?
Mystery.
What are we?
Life
Where
is a
are
riddle and a
we
mystery.
going? Where did
Mystery.
we come from?
Mystery.
What are we?
Life is
Where
a riddle
did
and a
we
mystery.
go? Where did
Mystery.
we come from?
Mystery.
What are we?
Life is a
Where
riddle
are
and a
we
mystery.
going?
Mystery.
Where come from?
Mystery.
What are we?
Life is
Where
a riddle and a
we
mystery.
going?
Mystery.
Where did we come from?
Mystery.
What are we?
Life is a
Where
riddle
are
and a
we
mystery. Nice. Amen.
Well, that was cool. All right, I would love to invite all children and youth and anyone else who would like to come join me in this space. And maybe we can move some this way. Yeah. Thank you. So today is all about questions. And we can learn a lot by asking questions, sometimes because we get answers from them, and sometimes we learn a lot just by asking the questions. And there's this thing that a lot of times happens where when we're asking questions, we're focusing on the end. So, for example, there's this bowl up here. And if I've never seen something like that before, I might ask Chris, what is this? And he might say it's a singing bowl and it makes a sound. And then I might just move on because now I know what that is. But if he didn't just answer that question, if he asked me a question about it, like, well, what do you notice about it? I might ask questions like, what is it made of? And then I might ask other questions like, how many hands have touched that bowl? Or, where did it come from before it was here? And if we ask those kinds of questions, we're going to develop a different kind of relationship with that object than if I just hear that it's a singing bowl that makes sound. And it takes practice sometimes to learn how to question like that. So I actually brought something for us to practice with. And before I show you, I'm going to tell you that there's some rules to this where we don't try to answer any of the questions. And you might think you know the answer to some of these questions, but you can't answer them for us. And just if that happens, notice what that feels like and allow people to ask questions. And see how creative you can get in your questions too. So I'm going to get this object. I'll do an example. I'll ask a question, and then I'll pass it, and people can have turns asking questions. So here's the thing. If you can't see it, it is a feather. I think we'd all agree on that. It's about 6 inches long. It is dark brown and tan and a little bit of white. And it has a pattern that is not quite striped. They're kind of different blobs on it. So that's for if you are not able to see this object. So my brain, so this came from my yard. Deo-Barry last night went outside and came back in with this. He found it outside. And right away, my brain thought, whose feather is that? And I feel pretty confident that I could figure that out. But if I just go straight to that answer, I'm going to forget and move on and not have a connection with whose ever feather this was. And so I want to try to ask questions that will help me think of it in a different way. So one example might be, is the animal that this came from still alive? Is there anybody else who would like to hold this and ask a question about it? Oh, the person who found the feather.
How high has this feather been in its lifetime?
Great question. Actually, would you pass it to somebody else?
No. Okay. Do you have a question?
It could be anything.
What do you want to know about that?
Is that okay?
Does the animal that this came from have other feather-like things that look just like this?
Nice. I have another one. Why are the patterns arranged the way that they are on this? Oh, this is a good person to ask.
How did this feather come to be on the ground?
Nice. How many humans have seen the animal that this came from? We're not answering, we're just wondering.
Are the patterns on this feather always the same?
Nice. What is the most recent food that this animal ate?
Worms? Probably.
You did say that like a question. Does this animal eat worms? That's a great question.
How many different states or countries has this bird or feather been to?
Nice, great question. Any other questions? I would love to hear a couple more.
Where's the bird's mate?
Oh, does this bird have a mate? Or where is the bird's mate? Did I see a hand here?
How old is the creature this came from?
Nice. Step right next to Annabelle.
Is the bird missing the feather?
Nice. Great question. How about one more? Jen has lots of questions about birds.
Questions. Where on the body does this feather come from?
Nice. Yes. So, if I just got up here and said who this comes from, I feel like we would be thinking differently, or maybe not even thinking about it at all anymore. But thinking about those different kinds of questions, I wonder if you think about this differently now. And maybe it doesn't even matter who it came from. Maybe it does. And so now we'll go downstairs and we'll talk about different ways to approach finding some answers to questions.
It is now time for the offering, time for us to help support all the good work and programs of this church. Donations may be made in person, online, by mailing a check to the 73 Court Street offices or using the Venmo app. During the month of August, our collection will be shared with both Wabanaki Reach and the Kawasuk Band of the Pennacook Abenaki. Wabanaki Reach supports the self-determination of Wabanaki people through education, truth-telling, restorative justice, and restorative practices in Wabanaki and Maine communities. The Kawasuk Band of the Pennacook Abenaki people provides education and services intended to preserve the life, history, culture, language, and traditions of the Abenaki. Please give as you are able. The offering will now be gratefully received, and please remember to put your questions in the boxes that will be passed around as well.
Precious day, for all gathered here and those far away, for this time we share with love and care. Oh, we give thanks for this precious day.
I invite us to gather our hearts and minds in a spirit of prayer or meditation with these words by adapted from Reverend Douglas Taylor. Spirit of life and love, great eternal mystery from whom all things flow. We gather this hour as a community of faith, pausing together to reflect upon our times, our culture, ourselves. We reflect upon the needs of all people, our own and those of people near and far. Specifically, I would like to lift up Laura Eve's mother, who has been in the hospital and has, as Laura told me, a long road of recovery ahead of her. Let us hold her and her family in our hearts. I know that there are also others here who struggle with health in different ways, and I want us to hold in all our hearts all who are going through difficult times here. Those who are going through difficult times here and in our wider world, because we see suffering of people and of our planet. We see it in the media, and sometimes it feels like it is too much. Especially when we see how ongoing injustice and inequality feed the suffering that we witness. May we continue to seek hope even when we witness what's wrong. May we not turn away, but find strength to take some action, no matter how small it might seem. May we know that a better world is possible and that our thoughts and actions matter close to home and further afield. May we feel the strength of spirit on our journey. May we pray in the name of all that is holy. Amen. Holding all that is in our hearts this morning, I invite you in a moment to come forward for our time of lighting candles, a public witness to what it is that you hold inside. And please remember that if you are going through a difficult time, I am here, as are your pastoral associates, as is Kirsten Hunter. If you need us, please fill out a card in your pew or come find me or email me or them after the service. We are here for you. I now invite you to light a candle for a joy or a sorrow that is in you today. Look, a card seems to have fallen out of the box. It strangely is in handwriting that looks just like mine. I don't know how that happened. Here's what it says. How on earth are you possibly going to answer 50 plus questions that have just been put into these boxes today? I have no answer for that. But what I will say is that I look forward to reading all of them, and perhaps they will show up in newsletter articles or sermons in the future, and I welcome conversations with you about anything that is raised here or not raised here today. It's part of the ongoing conversation that I look forward to with all of you. All right, I feel a little bit like I'm on a game show. I'm ready to hit the buzzer. And Alex, okay, what's the first, I think the answer is, what is South Church? But okay, I'll actually listen to a real question this time.
These are in no particular order. I did give you kind of an easy one to start.
What's that?
I gave you kind of an easy one to start.
Oh, all right.
But they're in
we'll
no
see.
particular order. And some amazing questions, really. What are you most excited about at South Church?
What am I most excited about? What am I most excited about at South Church? Oh my God, all of you. You guys are amazing. If you've never had a chance to look out from up here, it's absolutely fantastic to see your faces. It was also terrifying, by the way, at the beginning of a question box sermon, but it's the people of South Church. I've loved getting to know you. I have found you to be interesting people, and I have appreciated seeing the ways in which you do lean into some of the challenges that I offer you. That's fabulous. I loved seeing the heart that is at the center of South Church and that I see expressed in so many ways here among you. So those are a few things I'm excited about South Church.
How do we assess the impact of our shared ministry?
Oh, that is wonderful.
We'll jump right in here.
Yeah. Ooh. Getting right into the organizational systems questions. So, how do we assess how the collaborative ministry is going? So, it's actually a great segue to something that will be unfolding this year, which is something called feedback groups that your Committee on Ministries is going to be organizing. That is still in process, but it will be an opportunity for each of you to come into a small group. They're just doing a pilot, I think, in the first year, but eventually we're going to expand it. And it will be an opportunity for each and every one of you to offer your thoughts, feelings, reflections, descriptors of how you are experiencing what's happening at South Church and how you're participating in that. And that will then be offered back to those of us in leadership positions who are thinking and imagining and making decisions about the church as a whole. So that is in the works, and we'll see more of that coming up in this year.
How do you describe UU to newbies?
Yeah, it feels like sort of the quintessential elevator speech question. So it kind of depends on the height of the building, which answer I give. If it's a short building, maybe 2 stories, I will give the answer that we teach to our young people, and I'm going to get the order wrong, but it's something like, we are a church of the open mind, the loving heart, and the helping hands. Some of you know this, yeah. So that's a really straightforward way to explain who we are in a short building. If you have a taller building, you could offer our mission statement. So we at South Church nurture spiritual growth through worship, learning, and community. We celebrate the worth and dignity of all people, and we inspire one another to act on our faith in the larger community. And some of you, I suspect, have been like, when is she going to learn that mission statement? Well, And hopefully through repetition, you too will know this by heart. And then when you're stuck in an elevator, you can share that with someone and potentially what that means to you and how you live it, because that's what people really want to know. And if I'm in perhaps a long conversation at a cocktail party where there's not much else to talk about, I could go into some of the history that we were born during the Reformation back in the 1500s. This is a faith that has old roots, and I could talk about some of the evolution of our faith over that time. So we started out as Christian, and then there were the Unitarians who had a slightly different set of beliefs from their more Calvinistic brethren, because that's how they talked back then, and had a different perspective on who God was and who Jesus was and what it means to live in the world and what matters about our lives versus what happens after we die. And our Universalist forebears who, unlike the Christians of the time, said that some people, most people, many people would go to hell after they die. These Universalists said, we don't believe that a loving father would send his children to an eternal suffering. And so they, unlike the religions of their time, took a different position, a much more open position, that we are all saved and that our work is to, quote, love the hell out of this world. Both sides were all about living your life. How you live your life matters, and had different ideas about who God is. One thing I've liked in a elevator speech I heard is that what you know about God is a piece of the truth. So those are some of the things that you might offer to someone you've cornered at a cocktail party who you want to share more about this faith with. And I will say that as Unitarian Universalists, we sometimes shy away from talking about our faith with other people. We feel it's a little bit too evangelistic in some ways. But I say that when we offer what we have found to people we care about, it is a gift to them, and they could become a gift to this congregation. So I encourage you to think about your own sort of essential truths about this faith that you want to share with the people you love.
Where does Unitarian Universalism fall short?
I'm glad we didn't start with that. So going back to some of that history, I feel like we are part of a trajectory of both being a counter force to the dominant culture, dominant religion. Like, we're the questioners, we're the think different people before Apple stole that motto from us. And we have been growing our tent in terms of the beliefs that we welcome, the way we understand religion to be. We started out as Christian, we've expanded that to humanist thinking. We've expanded that to include earth-based religions. We've expanded that to include Buddhist traditions. We have as sources of wisdom Islam, and any religious tradition is for us a potential source of wisdom. So we've been breaking down some of the walls that have lived among and between different religious traditions, which is wonderful. And there is more work to do to widen that circle still further. And some of that work we're already doing some of that around race and our dominant culture, which centers whiteness. And how do we expand that to really begin to deeply welcome and understand and dismantle the racism in ourselves and in our institutions, including this church? There's the walls and different understandings and different perspectives around class and classism. That is something it feels like we're just beginning to do as Unitarian Universalists is really think about different perspectives and different classes and how we come together and how do we be truly inclusive. And I will say a third way that, ironically, where we began as a Christian denomination, one of the walls that we have perhaps unintentionally created is to the Christian tradition. And there's been a bit of a wall between us and Christian thinking. So how do we there's been a movement to reintroduce the language, sort of a more sacred language. I love some of the expressions I'm seeing in the congregation as I offer this, to begin to deconstruct, perhaps, some of our understandings of what Christianity potentially offers and find some of the wisdom that is there as well as in all the other traditions. So those are, I would say, three main areas: widening the circle around race, widening the circle around class, and widening the circle to return to including Christian wisdom in our congregations.
What makes a good minister?
Oh my, I think it's heart. It's in the heart. It starts there. So someone who is able to connect with their own heart and able to connect with your heart. And I got my 5-minute warning. Oh my gosh. We are just getting started. But yeah, I think that's a big part of it. I think someone who has the capacity to hold multiple perspectives and to help bridge the gaps between and among people within a congregation and beyond a congregation. I think someone who's about 5'8" and likes to wear turquoise and, I think a minister is also made by the congregation they serve. So there's a lot of mutuality that either leads to success or lack of success in that pairing between congregation and minister. And so that will be an opportunity for me to offer again, like that back and forth, for you to come to me, talk to me, tell me what's happening in you and with us. So that we can build and create something together that is as beautiful as what I already see here. Maybe one more. Is there a quick one? Chris? No.
Well, how do you personally feel about the references to Lord in Heaven on the front walls of our unit church? Follow-up question.
Well, that's kind of a perfect sort of segue from the Christian history, right? There it is for us all to learn to love, question. I think that's a great, maybe something for a feedback opportunity at some point to talk about what that means to people or what it could mean. I think this one in particular is not just a Christian, but also a Jewish core statement. I think it's called the Shema in Hebrew. See, this is where I was going to say something about I'm going to say something wrong, and you're going to let me know. So I'm not sure if I've got that word right, but yeah, these are deep cores of the faith that spawned Unitarian Universalism. So where do we take it from here is a great question.
I got one more.
Okay.
What is wrong if I don't have any questions?
What is wrong if I don't have any questions? I think what I want to say about that is how our culture is framed so much as whether it's right or wrong. And I know this was a joke question, but I'm going to answer it seriously. I think it's all part of the mix, all of it. Having questions, not having questions, having the right questions, having the wrong questions, it's all part of the conversation. And so I love the folks who asked questions. I love the folks who didn't ask questions. I think it's all good. And I'm glad to be here with all of you. Amen. Amen, right? And I invite us to join for our closing hymn, all about the dance. That is this community, that is our lives, that is who we are. So please rise in body or in spirit as we sing together hymn number 311, Let It Be a Dance.
Let it be a dance we do. May I have this dance with you through the good times and the bad times too. Let it be a dance. Let a dancing song be heard. Play the music, say the words, and fill the sky with sailing birds. Let it be a dance, let it be a dance, let it be a dance. Learn to follow, learn to lead. Feel the rhythm, feel the need. To reap the harvest, plant the seed. Let it be a dance. Let it be a dance we do. May I have this dance with you through the good times and the bad times too. Let it be a dance. Everybody turn and spin. Let your body learn to bend. And like a willow with the wind. Let it be a dance. Let it be a dance. Let it be a dance. A child is born, the old must die. A time for joy, a time to cry. Take it as it passes by. Let it be a dance. Let it be a dance we do. May I have this dance with you through the good times and the bad times too. Let it be a dance. Morning star comes out at night. Without the dark there is no light. If nothing's wrong, then nothing's right. Let it be a dance. Let it be a dance. Let it be a dance. Let the sunshine, let it rain. Share the laughter, bear the pain. And round we go again. Let it be a dance.
We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again.
Our closing words are by the poet Rainer Maria Rilke. Have patience with everything that remains unsolved in your heart. Try to love the questions themselves, like locked rooms and like books written in a foreign language. Do not now look for the answers. They cannot now be given to you because you could not live them. It is a question of experiencing everything. At present, You need to live the question. Perhaps you will, gradually, without even noticing it, find yourself experiencing the answer some distant day. Amen. Go in peace.